Hello, this is John, also known as Big Funky Chicken, and I'm just here to talk with you about a little thing called optimization. Now, lately they've been making this is very sad, they've been making quite a lot of games. They develop them for the game consoles and then they port them to the PCs, which isn't good in the first place, but here's what's worst. Now, the other day, I was at GameStop and I saw Split Second for $20. Now, I had played it a bit on the PSP, and I knew that the console and computer versions were much better. So I'm like, oh, it's only $20. What the heck? It was fun on the PSP. So I bought it and I put it on my laptop, and it runs terribly. I mean, it runs like a piece of junk, and that's on low settings. See the settings for this? It's not cut on and off anti-aliasing and cut on and off bloom and stuff like that. What it is it's low, medium, high, and very high. What is this? I mean, are you serious? You're going to actually not give us any options? There's no configuration file that you can edit either. You can't even make the game windowed unless you use like an external program, which I've had to do because it runs so terribly. At low settings, it runs at, if you're lucky, 30 frames a second, and when you're unlucky, it'll go down to like 25. On medium, it stays at 25 the whole time and goes down to 13 sometimes. It is ridiculous. It runs terribly. And my laptop runs Portal 2 on pretty much all settings high, no anti-aliasing or texture filtering. No, I have trilinear, but that's all. Anyways, it runs Portal 2 on high at very nicely. Not at the very starting, because that's kind of it's really large. The whole place is just large at the starting of the game, but after that, it runs very smoothly. I can be dragged into space and it runs at 25 frames a second on all settings high. Now I usually cut the shaders down to medium because it gives me like 20 extra frames per second when I cut the shaders down to medium. The high shaders just they're not compatible with my laptop. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is I can run this amazing looking game called Portal 2 that has gigantic worlds, and it's pretty heavy on the CPU and GPU. And here I can't run this game called Split Second on medium settings. And this game came out before Portal 2 did, I can assure you. Because why? It was made for the console, and when it was ported to the computer, it had zero optimization, none at all. No optimization. It runs just terribly, and I'm stunned that it runs so terribly. Now, another game I want to talk about. Well, what about this? Left 4 Dead 2. I've heard complaints about it running poorly on some systems, but I can cut the shaders on very high and cut everything else on medium, and it runs great. And here I can't play this game called Split Second. Yeah, right. Look it up on YouTube. Probably half the videos are going to be like 12 frames a second because it's such a terribly optimized game. Anyway, another game I want to complain about is Oblivion. Now, this is the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. I haven't played Skyrim yet, though I hear it's a lot better. First of all, Oblivion, sorry, but it's not a good game. I would not recommend getting it. I got it from my friend Trey, and I installed it on my laptop and then got a no CD crack so I could give the CD back to him. Anyway, it's just a terrible game. I mean, it's okay. I guess I shouldn't call it terrible. It's a large game, open world and stuff, but it does not run well. At certain spots, it'll run terribly. At other spots, it'll run great. I can have like everything on highest when I'm outside with like nobody else around, and it runs great. But then when I'm in a room with 4 people, like a small room with 4 people, then it lags down to like 22 frames per second. And I'm just wondering how they could have screwed up so bad. Now I don't have I might have the Game of the Year edition. I don't know, but I've heard the Game of the Year edition reduces lag. But I do have the latest patch for Oblivion, so I'm not behind, and I've installed the latest video card drivers, which were very difficult to get because of Toshiba limiting what you can get from AMD. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that, but what I just wanted to say is if in, games need to be optimized. That's all there is to it. I mean, you shouldn't have a game that you play on low settings on a really nice computer and it runs at 30 frames per second. You shouldn't have a game like that. Now, my computer is nowhere near very nice, but it, like I said, it runs Portal 2 on high settings. It runs Left 4 Dead 2 on high settings. It runs, what else does it run? Nitronic Rush, I have that on high settings, but that's kind of only 30 frames per second actually. Anyway, yeah, it's just fix it, guys. I mean, if you're gonna make a game for the console, if you're gonna develop it for the console, don't just port it to the PC and release it into stores. You have to optimize it first. I don't care if you make the release date later on in the year, as long as it runs nice on the computer. Because yes, there are people who still play games on the computer. Anyway, thanks for listening. Comment, rate, and subscribe. Tell me what you think in the comments. And I'll see you next time.